right, Jack. Mizzy on Mac. HS on deck, no meds, my S bake off with gap. Yes, friends in the camp, but still.
Yo, search on for Battle Not video. Today's video is a little bit different. I took inspiration from one of my favorite F1 YouTubers. You lot might not know him. He's called Tomo F1, and he literally just did a video. He just asked his subscribers some of their more controversial opinions about F1. So I just did the same with Drill. I haven't seen any of these, but I've seen there's over 300 comments on this post. Without any further ado, let's see what some of your more controversial opinions are. So the first guy, AN, says, also another opinion, being wet or OJ shouldn't be the determining factor of if someone is cold. Of course, no one should lie about what they do. That's not right. But also, why should we fans care so much about what if someone has mashed work? They're just trying to make a way out free music and we're not involved. That's not even controversial. That's just a fact. Like, that's just common sense. Like, and it's happened a couple people. Like, people find out that they don't do what they talk about and then suddenly no one cares anymore. It's like, obviously don't lie, but the fact that some people, their music holds more weight because of what people think they do on the road, that, yeah, I hear that argument. So yeah, that's true. You made a good point. I don't disagree with that. The point of this video is to see whether I disagree or agree with what you're saying. So far I agree. That's not really, I'm not going to read the comments of what they said, but I'm not going to read the replies. But yeah, I agree, it's a fact. The term fanboy has ruined drill. Nowadays, no one can really like a particular group without being called a bumlick. That's not really true, really. Like, I think with OFB, it ruined their kind of credibility because everyone starts calling OFB fanboys, blah, blah, blah. I still listen to them. I still bought the Drillers and Trappers hoodie. People seem to forget OFB isn't just those three. It's a big collective. So I didn't let that get in the way of my experience. I was literally listening to OFB today, like SJ Bando, K, Double O's, listening to Purge, Reality, their next stop. I just felt like it, so I listened to it. But I wouldn't say it's ruined drill, but it's definitely ruined how people take in drill, like how people communicate with the genre, whether people comment their support of an artist under a different post because they don't want to get labelled as a fanboy. That's a fact. I wouldn't say it's ruined drill, but it's changed it kind of for the worse. Like, kind of, it just changed the comment section, but the music itself is calm. So yeah, I don't really agree with that one there. Active had the best verse on Kennington Where It Started, period. You know what, yeah, the other day I put that song on, and when Active's verse came on, even my sister said that was her favourite verse on the song. So, and that's one song, I think most people in this country, our age, have heard that song, so that speaks for itself. But yeah, I think it definitely wasn't Mizomak's coldest verse. I think it was probably the best verse, but not the most iconic, which kind of makes sense. Mizomak's verse is iconic. Biss's verse, arguably the most iconic line ever said in the genre. Active's verse, I would say it was the best, like, in terms of, like, just rap quality. Yeah, it probably was the best, but I think that's not really controversial. It's worth talking about, but it's not really controversial. I think a lot of people agree with that, because it's true, really. And Blanco's verse was okay, but it wasn't on the same level. But yeah, it's not really controversial. I agree with that. New Digga D is good for what he's allowed to do, and everyone's just being picky. I'll admit, like, because when I heard Woy for the first time, shout out C on production, C and M1 on the beat, but yeah, when I first heard it, I was expecting like proper drilly crud, that kind of stuff. Because Digga D and 1011 really changed drill. Like, they're the reason the censorship is so heavy, from like Play for the Pagans, that kind of stuff. Very heavy censorship, because of that's what happens when you don't censor it. People move mad. So I was expecting, obviously not 100% that, but more No Diet. No Diet was kind of in the middle between Play for the Pagans and then like Woy. But no, I don't know if I said it at the time, but I appreciate the fact that he's just making music for himself. Not a lot of artists do that. Like, we see, I literally saw Taylor Swift wasn't even allowed to re-record some of her music. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Artists, Kanye West was talking about this. Artists can't really all the time do the music they want to do. They're under these labels, contracts. So you can see in Digga D's new music, he's actually making music the guy wants to listen to himself. And you saw his TikTok when he's just dancing to It's Whatever. So it is what it is, but I don't really listen to that. I've got no problem with him making it, reacting to it. If you guys want to see that, I haven't got a problem with it, but I prefer his older stuff. Lowski spun Mizomak on DJ Khaled. Can't agree with that one there. I can't lie. Earlier I said Kenneth Where It Started wasn't Miz's best verse. DJ Khaled is up there with one of his best ever verses. And that's probably definitely my top 10 favourite verses ever. I don't think Lowski spun him. Both of the verses are iconic. Obviously, Lowski, Rude and Dead, Why Does She Breathe? came from that. I don't know if he was saying it before that, but I'm pretty certain that might have been the first time he ever said it. So whenever you hear him saying that, it's a reference to that. I wouldn't say he spun him though. I wouldn't say he spun him, because the way Mizomac was flowing like perfectly on the beat, it's like the beat was made, it's like he did his verse, and then the producer heard his verse and then made the beat cater to him. That kind of thing. Anyone who watches F1, it's like how Red Bull have the car built for Max Verstappen. Like he has a driving style, they build a car catered to his needs, that kind of thing. Because that verse was just too perfectly on the beat. So I don't agree with that. I wouldn't say Lowski spun Miz on DJ Khaled. I don't agree with that. Nito MB has the best flow. I don't agree with that. There's people with better flows out there. There's obviously SJ's flow was cold. Gully's flow is cold. PS's flow is cold. Miz or Max flow is cold. I wouldn't say Nito's flow is up there, but I wouldn't say it's the best. I don't agree with that. ND and KK are very underrated in drill. Yeah, that's a fact. ND's fairly rated enough. He hasn't produced that much music yet, and everything he's dropped has been rated, so I wouldn't say he's underrated. KK is very underrated because the guy's been around for years now, and he doesn't get the love he deserves. I rate him very highly. RV was never top 10. That you're not making sense. Drillers and Trappers 2, arguably best drill album ever. Like I even bought the hoodie because of it. It was that cold. Like that album, I don't think a week has passed since it dropped that I haven't listened to it. Like I think every time I listen to music, I listen to at least one of the songs. I honestly don't think a week's passed. So to say RV was never top 10, nah. 2018, well, RV was locked for most of 2018, but then 2019 he comes out about RV was never top. You're not making sense, but I can't lie. If Incognito was alive, he'd be top 5 in drill. I don't know. I don't like this hypothetical stuff, because we'll never know. Like, he was cold, but it's not, music isn't the same as like sport, where you can see where someone is right now and then you can literally map out a projection of where you expect their career to be. We can look at Mbappe and Haaland right now, see the kind of numbers they're coming up with, and say, okay, if they stay on this level, then categorically you can look at numbers, it's definitive data, they should be around here. You can't really do the same with music, because you might be popping right now and then the next minute you fall off. Incognito was very, very talented though. So, but I don't know about top 5 in drill. He might not have even stayed in drill. I mean, someone like him, I don't think he would have stayed in drill. He had bigger talent than that. Definitely would have been the biggest rappers in the country, 100%, one of the biggest, because the guy was very, very talented. A shout out my guy Romain from Twitter. New York could have killed it with their own style of drill, but instead decided to take UK beats and mimic the sound. I've got no problem with it, really. I haven't really got a problem with it, because that's given us songs like 44 Bulldog using the same beat as Nito's Lightwork, and I can't decide which one's better. I listen to 44 Bulldog way more, but then some people might say Nito's Lightwork's better, but either way, both songs are cold. Then you got people like Travis Scott jumping on drill beats with Gatti, with Pop Smoke. I got no problem with that. Travis Scott's one of my favourite artists. My sister loves Travis Scott. Now there's a song my sister loves Travis, I love drill. Now there's a Travis Scott on drill. Like, I got no problem with that. And then we got songs like No Suburban Part 2 or Suburban. I get confused. One of them's Chef G, one of them's 22Gs, produced by Ghosty. I got no problem with it. If you're gonna make songs like that, to that degree, I've got no problem with it. So yeah, they probably could have had their own style and their own sound. But I don't know, man. I've always loved New York, and I just find it sick that New York use our style. Like, it's all going full circles. I haven't got a problem with that. It's cold. It's not like they're making bad music with our sound. They're making very, very good music. AM is the king of drill. AM, in my opinion, has arguably the strongest case for being the best in drill. Like, he actually does, but you don't really hear his name in the discussion, which is something I find really interesting. Like, yeah, I find it really interesting. Now I think about it, I'm like, everyone agrees Miz. I think PS, but then when I think about it, there's big negatives for both of them. J.U, that's about it. And also they haven't dropped albums either, but because they haven't been out for long enough. But AM, he actually done nothing wrong, to be fair to the guy. Literally, that's the only negative I have with him, is that he has been in jail for the past 3 years. So by virtue of that, it is kind of unfair to say that other people aren't better than him, because he has been out for so long. And when you look at other people that we'll get onto in the future, that have been out for the whole time and have been consistently dropping big songs, I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, and a lot of people will bring up the argument that the quality of his songs was so high that no one's matched it since. But the way I look at it, a lot of people have been dropping consistent songs just below the level that he had. But in terms of the rates and longevity of their distribution of music over this time whilst he's been locked up in a cell, it is a bit unfair on those people to say, nah, I know you've been really, really good, but this guy, I know he's been gone for 3 years, but he's still better than you. It's like if Ronaldo and Messi retire next year, and then for the next 5 years, people just refuse to see anyone as the best footballer on earth, even though they're the person they think is the best isn't even like an active player. That's kind of what it is. If SJ didn't get bagged, he would be top 5 in draw. Facts. And literally, I even tweeted it. I think if he'd stayed out any longer, he would, like, literally, if he stayed out for like another 2 years, because deep it, Miz Mac and PS, they really shone for like a straight 2-year period. Miz Mac 2016 to 17, PS really just that whole 2017, and that's enough to launch him to GOAT status. That was just a 1-year run. Obviously, he's come out since, but whilst he was in, he had that GOAT status. So if SJ literally just 1 more year, then I think he would have been like categorically the GOAT of draw. Like, that's just my personal opinion. Just 1 or 2 more years, that everyone would agree that he's the best in the genre. So it's a shame we'll never find out. PS isn't top 5 in draw. I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, if you're talking about ever, if PS isn't in your top 5, I mean, that's your own personal opinion, isn't it? But I personally don't agree with that opinion, but it's your one. I can't change it. I just don't agree with it. Draw has peaked and will plateau. I don't know about that. I think there's a lot. It still has a lot to give. And what we were saying earlier about New York using the drill scene, drill sound that we've created. I mean, that's New York. Like, that's like the financial hub of the world. Yeah, so all it takes is for that to just pop off. Like, New York drill hasn't even blown yet. Once that blows, people will pay homage to us, and you've already got 22Gs paying homage to UK artists. It will just start to bleed more into our genre, and people just start giving it the respect it deserves. So I wouldn't say it's peaked yet. It had its glory days, but I don't see anything stopping it from getting bigger, apart from like more injunctions like what AM and Skendo had. Nito MB is better than PS and AM, but not CB and Mizdo. Yanko is better than CB. Sav 12 was always better than S1. AM is overrated. KO, I think we're gonna leave it on this because these are there's controversial and they're just stupid. KO is the most overrated rapper of all time. You're forgetting he was the best, or arguably the best in 2018. I can't remember if I gave him the best in 2018 when I did the Draw Ballon d'Or. I'd like to think I did, because ask anyone back in 2018 who was the best, most people, I'd say 7 out of 10 people would have said KO. Like, the guy was just on top. So we're gonna leave it there. I haven't really got too much else to say. We've gone through quite a lot of them. Yeah, comment below whether you agree with my takes on the opinions given here, but I don't know, you know, I wanted to do this video, A, because I saw Tomo do it, but B, because there's been a lot of occasions where I've stated my opinions and they seem to be very unpopular with you, and then I see you state your opinions and I'm like, yo, please don't tell me people actually think that kind of stuff. Like, someone tried to say Yanko was better than PS one time. I'm like, so yeah, I've been Sachi14. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. We'll be back again soon.